What's going on, everybody? Edison T. Crux here, and welcome back to another How to Make a Nuzlocke tutorial. Now, in this video, I'm going to be showing you something, actually giving you something that I think is going to be really cool. It is a set of pre-built, customizable, ready to rock and roll Nuzlocke layouts, or borders if you prefer to call them that. Now, in a previous tutorial, I showed you how to make something kind of like this from scratch using Gimp, which is a free image editor, kind of like the poor man's Photoshop. But still, for a lot of people, making this from scratch, even with a step-by-step guide, was just a lot more work than you really wanted to do. So I thought it would be neat if I could make a pre-built one that you can then just go in and customize however you want. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you the set of pre-built layouts that I made for you. I am also going to be showing you how to use them in your Nuzlocke. So if you didn't watch the other video, you'll know what to do with this to plug it into a video editor and start rocking. And I will also show you how to customize this a little bit to make it more your own, because obviously you don't want it to look identical to everyone else's. You want to add your own little flair to it. So you'll be able to find the download links for all of this stuff in the description. Now, the only thing I ask, this is free to use. This is absolutely free. You can use this in your Nuzlocke playthrough, whatever. Totally free to use. The only things that I ask, and they're completely optional, is if you do use this, would you mind crediting me in the description of your video? There's no no copyrights or watermarks all over this, nothing to uglify it or nothing. But if you wouldn't mind crediting me in the description with a link to my YouTube channel, that would be wonderful. I'll have a sample of what that can look like down in the description of this video. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that'd be great. Also, if you could like this video, if it's been helpful, and maybe leave a comment just to let me know that, hey, you're using it, because I'd like to actually see this in action. So if you're using it on a video series, leave a comment. Let me know. I'd love to check it out. Also, if you really are loving this, and this is a really big convenience, then consider heading over to my Patreon page and making a pledge of even just like $1 a month. You know, if it's something that you use on all of your videos, and it was a really big help, then that would be a really great way. Like I say, $1 a month might be perfect. Just a way to say, hey, thanks, I really appreciate the effort you put forward. Anyway, like I say, all of that's optional, and enough rambling about that. Let's get on to what I've got for you today. So this is the first of the set of layouts I've got made for you. This is for a single screen game. This is specifically sized for the Game Boy Advance. Now, if you're not familiar with GIMP, I'll run by real quick how it works. Over here on the left-hand side of your screen is going to be the tools. We're only going to use a couple of them because we're not making anything from scratch here. And over on the right here is your layers, which are each like individual, like you see, Pokeballs. If I use that with my move tool, I can move the set of Pokeballs. So that's called a layer. Each different little image thing can be moved independently of each other with layers. And you also notice in GIMP, whatever one is highlighted, it will have, in this case, it's a whole set of them. They'll have this little border thing around it. So that's the super, super quick description of how GIMP works. I should be explaining to you as we go anything else you need. If you've never used GIMP before, I'll take care of you. No worries. So this is the layout for a Game Boy Advance size screen. It should work close to the same dimensions for any single screen game. You might have to adjust it a little bit, but it should do the job. I also have a slight adjustment, look at that pretty face there, for if you want to have a webcam. Now, this layout's almost the same as the one without the webcam. I just move everything down a little bit, and you don't have room for your title, but that's okay. You want to make, with a layout, you want the image of the game, or the actual gameplay, to be prominent. So I made sure to keep that nice and big, and there's room for a face cam and still all the important stuff. Also, cool little death count and badges count, which I think looks nice. Now, let's say you're doing one of the two-screen games, say the DS generation games. I've got a similar layout. As you can see, it's set up a little bit differently. That will easily accommodate two screens. So we have the top screen here and the bottom screen down here. And we've got the Pokeballs, which will have the Pokemon on your team, in case you didn't know. Laid out over here. They're laid out a little bit differently, but still looks really nice. You get your title up there, all that good stuff. I also now have, in case you really are feeling ambitious and are going to need a 2-screen plus face cam, I actually have 2 different alternate layouts for that. First one is, look at that face again, the more compact one. As you can see, we just have the screens, face cam, and just the Pokeballs that will be the Pokemon here. You'll see how that looks later if you're not familiar with that from other Nuzlockes. The problem with this is it doesn't have any room for a title, which is not that big a deal, but it doesn't have any room for badges or death count, which is a little unfortunate. But the plus side is the screen here, the top screen, is as big as you can fit it pretty much. So nice and big and prominent. That's one thing that's good about this. But the other variant of that is this style, which you might recognize this. It's very, very similar to what I use in my Heart Gold Nuzlocke, where I've got face cam and second screen over here, as well as the title, which obviously you would replace this, and I'll show you how. Still nice and large screen. It's not a tiny screen. You know, there's no more dead space than we need. I made it as big as I could while fitting everything on there. The Pokemon over on the left-hand side, and then down here, I've got badges and death count. This is probably the way you'd want to go if you're going to be doing a DS game with the face cam. Now, I don't have any of these laid out. I did not make one specifically for the 3DS games because honestly, I didn't figure as much of my market will be having the devices to do 3DS. But if you do need that, you would just try and make it so that the width of your 3DS screen, the bottom screen is the same size. The width of the top one, keep it the same, and you just have extra space in the top and bottom. Or you could tweak it however you want. Again, you can customize these however you want. But this is just the quick layout of what I've got in that download link below. So these should take care of most any of your gaming needs. So let's crack on then with how you can customize this to make it your own. Now, first of all, this gameplay, I'm going to show you again over here, the layers on the right-hand side. This is where you're going to be doing a lot of your work. I tried to name them intelligently so it'll be easy enough for you to navigate, but let me run it through you. When you're actually using this for your game, you'll want to check this little eyeball on the layer. That makes the layer either visible or invisible. I just realized I actually want to have this shadow set to 75 opacity. Never mind that. So this is what you're actually going to be using when you're making your game or in your footage. You don't really want this here because obviously in your video editor, that's where your game's going to go. Now this layout assumes you're going to have this if you're using a multi-track video editor, which you'll need to use this. And I'll have a tutorial coming up on Lightworks, which is a free video editor that can handle this. But this assumes you're going to put this on the bottom. So you'll have this as an image, and then you'll put your video on top. I might be talking Greek, but if you are following through on all this, it'll eventually make sense, I promise. So anyways, this is what you'd actually be working from. Now, the background here is the easiest way to customize it. Well, first of all, on your layers, I'm going to show you over here. You'll see sample title. The sample title layer, that's this thing. You're going to want to get rid of that. You can either just make it invisible or just right-click and delete to just get that out of here. And I would suggest putting in your own title here. Or you can leave it blank if you don't want to, but that's kind of what that space is for. So that's how you get rid of that. And the simplest way, if you want to just have a real easy way to customize this just a little bit, is on Gimp, you'll want to highlight this backdrop layer. That's this one all the way down here. Have it so you're clicked on that. And go up to Colors and Hue Saturation. Then all you got to do is just wiggle this hue thing around, and you'll see it changes the whole color scheme. Like, let's say, this is great, what I had it for, if you're doing, like, say, a fire red or a red Nuzlocke or something. Or even, like, Pokemon Y, I guess, if you're doing that. Of course, you'd need the other layout for that. But this color scheme would work good for any of those kind of red games. Omega Ruby, any of that. But, like, say you're doing, like, I don't know, a Pokemon Blue or, like, Silver. Well, you'd have to do something a little different for Silver, but, like, a Leaf Green or just whatever. Yeah, that's a Leaf Green right there. You can adjust any of these things. You can also adjust the lightness if you want. Oh, that's kind of Pokemon Yellow right there. Look at that. But play around with this, and then you've got a nice pattern still, that same little pattern. but in a different set of colors. I'm going to cancel that because I'm going to keep it. But that's the super, super easy way to customize this to be your own. The other option that if you really want to get fancy is you can add another layer instead of this backdrop layer, which you can just grab an image and put it over here. Be cautious doing that because remember, you don't want the layout, the border, to be more prominent than the game. It should complement it, but it should be relatively subtle. You don't want it to be too loud or obnoxious. But that is an option. If you do that, you can simply drop it in at the very bottom here and get rid of this backdrop. So put it there. So that's how you can customize that to whatever your needs are. And if you really feel crazy, you can move around any of these other things. They're all, individual layers set to doing that. So now let's talk, now that we've got it customized exactly how you're going to want it, and since have been looking at this layout, let's go ahead and stare at this one just for a little bit of variety. You'll notice I have 2 layers for the top and bottom screens. That's just, again, you want to uncheck those when you're actually making this, so this is what you're working with. So let's say, all right, you just started your game. Now, what you're going to want to do is on here, you'll see, if you see a little arrow next to a layer, that means it's a folder. And you can click that to kind of open it up, the folder. I just do that for a little bit of ease of use. So I would find the names. Now, this is going to be important. You don't obviously want name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I would just make all of those invisible for the time being. And now, once you're customized, you have your title, background is how you want it, boom, you're good to go. Go up to File, Export, and you're going to want to export it as either a PNG or a JPEG, something along those lines. And what I would do, I would typically do something along the lines of, let's say this was a Heart Gold Nuzlocke layout, just because that's what I'm recording at the moment. I would do something along the lines of HG Nuz layout 01. Nope, not 12. So this would be the first one I do. I'm actually going to go ahead and save that. I'm actually going to do test Nuz so I don't confuse myself and use this in my Heart Gold Nuzlocke. So I would save it as this. Okay. It'll pop up this export thing. The default should be fine. Just hit export and you're good to go. Now you'll have that over here. And this is a PNG file, which you can easily use in your video editor. So each change you make to the layout, say when a Pokemon appears, is going to be saved as a separate PNG or JPEG file, a separate image for each alteration. Let me show you what that means there. We're going to say you started a new game and got a Bulbasaur. Not that that makes sense with the 2-screen one, because I was pretending this was Heart Gold, but we're just going to roll with it. Now, you're going to want to find the right layer to put a Bulbasaur image. I've actually put a little place marker is right here. You'll see this layer is called, if I can stretch it a little, Pokemon Go Here. Now, it's a blank layer. There's actually nothing on that layer. I just put that there so you know that's where you want to drag Pokemon images. Now, I have somewhere, master list of Pokemon graphics. You can either get this yourself or go to like a place like Bulbapedia or something like that to get official artwork. Don't be stealing anyone's fan art unless you have their permission. Try to just stick to the official artwork for your stuff. Anyway, we're going to start with the Bulbasaur because I like Bulbasaur. And as you can see, all you have to do is if you have it on something like this, you can drag and drop and you're good to go. Whoop. Now, to move it around, you have to highlight this tool over here. This is the Move tool. And by default, it's usually selected on Pick a Layer or Guide, which means whatever you click on, it will kind of have you do. I don't really like using that. I would rather move the active layer, which means whatever is clicked here, no matter where I click on the screen, I'm going to be moving that Bulbasaur. But your mileage may vary. I'm going to move this. Now, you see with where it is positioned, at where I said Pokemon Go Here, it'll be in front of those little Pokeballs, but behind this little box where the name goes. So this Bulbasaur is obviously too big. We're going to want to go back over to the tools here, and this one is the Scale tool. Now, just an FYI, the position of these tools might be a little different because it is customizable on Gimp, so just look for the Scale tool, wherever that may be. Click on the Bulbasaur, and you'll get this little dialogue. You'll want to check this. That's like a linking thing. If you don't have that checked, then you can stretch him all out of proportion, make him super tall or super fat. But if this is checked, it will keep the proportions the same, which is what we want, because we want Bulbasaur to be proportionate. So then you just click on the edges and drag to adjust the size. You can also click on the middle to kind of move him around. Not that you can really see him that well. When you think you got him, hit scale, and there you go. Switch back over to the move tool. Position him just how you like him. Let's say that looks pretty good. And then we're going to go back to the, on the right hand over here, names, open that up, and name one, we're going to make it visible, and we're going to go back over to our tools, click on this one, which is a text tool. Now, GIMP is kind of quirky when dealing with text. If you want to keep it, so whatever settings you have, I have it set to sans bold, just because that's a common font a lot of people would have, at size 18, whatever. If I were to select this whole thing, sometimes it would then, see, it lost the bold part. It just kind of does default stuff if you select the whole thing, which is kind of annoying, I'll be honest. So what I usually do to keep whatever setting I have here is I leave the first letter there. And then for some reason it will keep it. I'm going to just do Slughorn. Because, well, I started with a Bulbasaur named Slughorn. And then I just go back and delete that first one. That way it keeps it. If you have a different font that you like that's easy to read, make sure you use an easy to read font. This will make it kind of easy to keep. Boom. Done. And just so this box goes away, I usually just go down and select the backmost layer, just so I don't have to see that. And look at that. Now we have Slughorn, a Bulbasaur, in that one spot. Now with that one change made, you'll then go over and export. There's export to the one you just made, which is a kind of neat feature sometimes, but we actually want to export as, because this is going to be layer 2, or test nuz layout 02, because this is a change made to the layout. So in your video, it's going to start with the other one and then move to this. I'm going to show you again another example of a change. Let's say you were playing along in your Nuzlocke and you got a badge. Now, how you did that with just a Bulbasaur, I don't know, but we're going to need to update the badge count here. Now, the same thing applies if you just highlight this and change that to 1. What is that doing there? It changes the font color, just gets all kinds of weird. So that's just one of the things, the quirks of GIMP. Which, by the way, if I didn't mention this before, I don't think I did. GIMP is free, and I'll have a link to where you can download it in the description, which you will need that to do all of this stuff. I probably should have mentioned that earlier, sorry. So, anyways, just make sure you're at the end of the bit there, after the 0, or whatever it may be, and then type 1. Then you just go back, remove the 0, and click off that tool, and you're good to go. You've now changed badges to 1. Now, why did I put little things behind there? That's actually for your convenience. GIMP, it's the poor man's Photoshop, which means it's actually not quite as good as the real deal, but it's free, so I can't complain. But one of the drawbacks to it is it does not have an easy way to do borders. The way to do like this border around the text here, if you look on the layout over here, on the layers over here, you'll see that I actually have the death's text and then death's outline, which is an annoying way you have to do this whole process. It's kind of a bummer, honestly, to make a new border around text. So I, for your ease, try to make something behind it that would still look good that you wouldn't even have to worry about that. So you're playing, you don't have to worry about any of that weird stuff like that. You just update the number and it should be just fine to go. So now we have another change, right? We had Slughorn, and now Slughorn alone got a badge. He probably could have done that against Brock, because that's all you really use against Brock anyway, right? That's going to be saved as layout 03. Again, default options are just fine. Now, if we look over on my folder here, we now have 3, well, these are the editable files. It's an XCF file. That's what GIMP uses to edit with. That'll have all these layers and all that good stuff. So we now have 3 pings. Layout 101, which is just the beginning. This is where you're starting your Nuzlocke. Oak is giving his whole spiel about Pokemon World and such, asking if you're a boy or a girl, you know, the tough questions in life. Then, when you pick your starter, which had better be Bulbasaur, you make an adjustment, and it moves over to this. That's how you make a cool thing in your video. Make it transition. So each transition, each change is going to be another separate image. Then say Slughorn here probably didn't catch any Pokemon because that's how my luck is. I can't speak for you. But managed to get a badge. So then you make one more new image and it transitions and changes that. So in a nutshell, that's how you use these free layout, like pre-built layout template things for your adventure. So whatever kind of setup you're using, face cam, 2 screens, single screen, whatever, this should be a great way to get you started so that you can make a really great looking Nuzlocke. And that's really all I've got for you for this video. So I hope this has been super helpful. I'm going to make these appear just because, well, because it looks nicer. I hope this has been super helpful for you and that this really helps you get your Nuzlocke adventure off the ground. If it was, please hit that like button and leave me comments letting me know what you thought, and especially let me know if you're using it. Consider becoming a patron if you're really enjoying it, and just maybe subscribing for more future tutorials on how to make an awesome Nuzlocke adventure. Anyway, until next time, catch you later, everybody.